Welcome to Search Talk Live with search engine optimization and marketing experts Robert O'Haver and Caleb McKelvin, powered by the Robert Palmer family of companies.
Welcome back to Search Talk Live. Another fantabulous week full of awesome guests from MOZ, as we are celebrating MOZ month. May is MOZ month.
Yes, yes, it
With
is.
me is my co-host Caleb McKelvin. Caleb, how's it going?
Oh, man, it's going fantastic here. Rob, I'm so excited to be back for another show. This month has been completely awesome. The guests have been awesome. The content's been awesome. Our listeners have been awesome. And we're just going to continue that today.
Oh, we're going to top it off with Rand Fishkin at the end.
At the end, we got two awesome guests today.
Yeah.
But we're going to continue this freight train of awesome digital marketing content, and we're ready to go.
Yeah, our guests today are experts in paid search advertising.
Yes.
And they are at MOZ.
Yeah,
of course, obviously. So with me today, I'll let you introduce me.
Yeah, so we have Kelly Cooper, who is the marketing campaign manager at MOZ, and Fu Bui, the paid marketing manager at MOZ. How y'all doing today?
We're doing good.
Great.
Awesome. We really appreciate y'all joining us today and dropping some paid advertising knowledge on our audience.
Now, starting with Kelly. Kelly, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure thing. So it'll be 2 years at MOZ in September. So I'm the marketing campaign manager here at MOZ. So I'm responsible for our go-to-market campaigns. And I work very closely with Fu on acquisition campaigns, from incorporating search and social advertising into our broader marketing campaigns, as well as demand generation activities and media buying.
Nice. Now, I want to start out for the listeners, of course. What are the first things when you're saying, okay, I want to build a search campaign? What are the first things you're going to do?
Well, I think the first thing when you're developing any campaign is really understanding your audience. You want to know who you're going to reach, or who you want to reach, before you can really start to look into keywords. And the second thing I'd say, once you know who you want to reach, would be identifying who your competitors are, so you can really understand and promote your unique selling proposition and make sure to include that potentially in your ad copy. But Fu, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think that since coming on board at MOZ, it's really given me exposure to like a different side of things. Before I came on to MOZ, I worked at an agency for 2 years, which is the equivalent of like 30 years in the search industry.
It's like dog years.
Yeah, so I've been So I did paid search there, and it's just a totally different world. So as far as coming up with campaigns, there was a lot of just keyword research, and then coming up with ad copy, really digging into landing page options and exploring like what is the content of each page, and what can you use, what can you glean from that to get your keywords and your ad copy. Since coming on board at MOZ and kind of working on the more in-house side of things, you have to think much more broadly than just what am I going to create in my search campaign. So you actually have to work with teams to put together landing pages, and then make sure that you have your goals and your conversion tracking in place, making sure that the design is all right, page itself, and then even having the opportunity to work with stakeholders and coming up with keywords or coming up with ad copy that'll work for everybody. So it's a lot of cross-team coordination and collaboration, much more so on the in-house side than the agency side. A lot of the times on the agency side, it was like you just come up with the small pieces of it and just do the execution portion, and someone else is driving all the higher end strategy stuff. But now it's like being in-house is a mixture of all of those things together.
Now, when you say, okay, I need a landing page, do you have any input on that? Do you like say, I want it this way, or do you say, I just need a landing page for this?
Yeah. So before, as far as the agency side goes, I was definitely like, okay, you need to do this and make a landing page, but I had no like ideas or no input really. It was just like, you should do this. These are the best practices. But now being in-house, there's a lot more input that is expected from me, of like, okay, so you want a landing page. What do you want it to look like? And what do you want it to say? And what should the URL be? And all of these different aspects. So I have a lot of input into it.
Helps that quality score too.
Yeah.
Yeah, It does a lot. So that was one of the big focuses when I came on board at MOZ, was just making sure that we were following best practices and cleaning things up, improving quality scores. So starting a regular cadence of ad copy testing, making sure that I'm using the language from the landing page to kind of have that match all the way through from keyword search to ad to the landing page experience itself.
Yeah.
So always beholding us to, or keeping us on point to make sure that we have all the conversion tracking set up ahead of time to make sure that that we can have a set confirmation page instead of firing off of a modal. So he's always keeping us accountable for the best ways to track conversions, which obviously when you're putting together a broader marketing campaign and you look at high level what you're trying to drive, that's arguably the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think that having conversion tracking, is always like the best, like the best thing to kind of prove your worth, I guess you could say.
Absolutely.
And then, then if things aren't going right, it's always easy to say like, well, maybe the conversion tracking isn't working. So that's like the best scapegoat here.
Yeah. There you go. So, like, I don't want to say specific to MOZ. You may not want to give that information, but like, what are the different platforms that you guys like to advertise on, and not just for MOZ, but in general?
You want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah. So at MOZ, we are using a few different platforms. So obviously with search, we're doing Bing ads. Bing ads, probably unsurprisingly, doesn't have a ton of traffic from like the SEO online marketing community, so it's a much smaller portion of our budget.
Right.
From the social side of things, we're doing Facebook advertising, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We haven't really gotten into Instagram advertising. I'm not super sure that it's the right fit for like B2B, like our audience, but we're kind of exploring that right now. And then we're currently using two sort of programmatic display advertising platforms. So one of them is Quantcast, and we use that for like prospecting, reaching out to people who theoretically haven't been to MOZ before or haven't heard of MOZ before. And then we're using AdRoll for retargeting. So people who visit MOZ may see our ads kind of across the web via AdRoll.
Yep.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, as far as the whole the B2B and the consumer facing, if somebody was asking, okay, which one should I be advertising on, or what should I be focusing on, there's obviously going to be a differentiation between the B2B and the consumer. For those facing the consumer side and B2B, how can they determine which one's going to be the best opportunity from them and the best ROI?
Depends on your audience.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think so far, even within B2B or B2C, there's, you can really dig deeper into each specific type of audience in there as well. So with MOZ in particular, I've seen a lot of success in our paid social platforms with Twitter, for example, much more so than Facebook. When I talk to other friends in the industry, they're surprised by that at first. Because normally Facebook is like kind of the golden child of paid social right now.
Right.
The thing is with MOZ, with online marketing in general, Twitter is a much more, I think, frequently used platform as like a blended, this is my personal life, but I also use it for professional stuff as well. And Facebook is much more so just like, this is my personal life and this is what I think about politics or whatever else. And so people are much less likely to use it as a professional platform versus Twitter. So that, I think as far as a platform that would apply to both spaces, Twitter is great. Facebook, I think, and Instagram are a lot more successful with B2C. I don't know. It's just a platform that kind of fits for that.
Right.
That need.
I think with B2B too, like if people have the budget, I think that developing media, like developing partnerships with different publishers can be a really great way to use paid advertising to drive business. I know for MOZ specifically, we've looked into sponsoring different reports or content syndication activity even sending dedicated e-blasts. So some of those kind of bigger media buying activities specifically to B2B can really help you, if you have a sales team, generate leads for the sales team or just drive business in general. So they all kind of need to be working together, both from the paid search and social, as well as, if it makes sense for your business, these media buy opportunities.
Right.
Absolutely. What would your recommendation? I'm getting an echo. What would your recommendation be for a business, small business that doesn't have a lot of money and want to get, the best bang for their buck? Let's say their audience is on Facebook and they can reach them on AdWords, but what would be your recommendation?
I think that there's opportunities, even, let's say, that aren't some of these media packages. If you can kind of start producing content and position yourself as an expert in the space, you can get the same kind of visibility on these third-party publisher sites without paying money. So let's say there's always, help a reporter out, and you can comment on kind of a campaign that somebody's doing in the market and position yourself as a paid advertising expert or a mobile marketing expert. So I think if you have minimum budget, there's things that you can do to really start kind of wear your influencer marketing hat and position you and your company to be kind of the go-to for producing content. I know that ClickSea takes ClickSea has people that have monthly articles. I know that Mobile Marketer and Luxury Daily, those are more geared toward consumer marketing, but they look for people to comment on what different luxury brands are doing in the space in digital marketing. It's certainly a longer game, but beneficial as far as getting your name out there and reaching that audience without spending a ton of money.
Yeah.
Nice. Well,
if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Search Talk Live. You are here. We have Kelly Cooper and Fu Bui from MOZ, our paid marketing and marketing campaign manager over at MOZ. We're talking about paid advertising and paid search. If you'd like to call on in with your questions, you can do so at 855-722-0006. That is 855-722-0006. Please hit option 1. You'll be directed to our main man, Dave, managing the phones, and we will get your question on air. You can also tweet at us at Search Talk Live, or send your email in with your question at Robert@SearchTalkLive or Caleb@SearchTalkLive.
And we're powered by the Robert Palmer family of companies. And you can go to robertpalmercompanies.com and check them out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Back to that. Now, what would your advice be? I see this time and time again. Someone tries to get their feet wet in, let's say, AdWords, and they have no experience whatsoever. What would your advice be for somebody like that?
That was me 2 years ago. I think what's really important, if you have the time, is to get your basic AdWords certification. I can't even remember what they're calling it anymore, but going through the process and studying for that and really getting yourself familiar with all the terms, all the concepts, all the ideas that AdWords presents. Because I know that when I first started, I opened up AdWords and it's just like this huge thing of all these different tabs and these menus, and it's so overwhelming to look at when you're not familiar with it. So just kind of getting your feet wet by kind of studying for something like that, getting that basic certification is super helpful in familiarizing yourself with the platform and what it can do. I think if you don't really have the time for that, what's going to be important is just finding people in the industry. So Twitter is an especially good resource to just engage with people who are in it, or just reading conversations, reading threads. I know that for me personally, I look at Search Engine Land a lot to keep up with news. Reddit has its own PP subreddit that you can check out, and just you can even just get on there and ask people, I don't know what to do. How would I do keyword research for X, Y, or Z, or what ad copy should I write? And people on there are generally very willing to help. And then there's even PPC chat, I think, on Twitter as well, where people just sort of ask questions and get themselves really ingrained and involved in the community. So I think if you don't have a lot of time, that's a good way to just sort of get yourself familiar with what's going on in the space. And then as far as just diving right in and doing stuff. It's the thing with AdWords is it's not terribly difficult to put things together. And like they have their keyword research tool that it will spit out a whole bunch of 99% irrelevant keywords that are all broad match.
That doesn't mean use them all.
That's the challenge. Sometimes you just have to learn by making mistakes and being like, why did I spend hundreds of dollars on a totally irrelevant keyword, and then kind of tweaking from there.
Yeah.
I guess if you had if I was in an elevator with somebody that wanted one snippet of advice, I'd say Google AdWords broad match and don't do it.
Yeah. Google wants your money, so they will definitely push you to have broad match or expanding budgets and things like that, and spending maybe kind of recklessly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you have to, in the end, the best thing you can do is just try stuff. Like a lot of people get scared of doing paid advertising because you pay money for it, and that's totally fine. That is completely understandable. But I think that you do have to be kind of willing to just test things out and see what happens. Like otherwise, it's not a place where you can just do tons and tons and tons of research and then find out like, oh, I have all these data points to why I should do paid advertising or why I shouldn't do paid advertising. In the end, it's one of those fields where you just have to try it and see what happens. And then if it works, then keep going. If it doesn't, then do something else.
That brings up a question. Are you guys using the new Keyword Explorer?
Yeah, I've used it.
Good answer. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, I have used it. Rand, actually, when he was kind of developing it, had sent me over like the very, very early version of it that wasn't as pretty. So yeah, I've used that. I think it's great, and it's really an amazing UI, and has a lot of incredible data. Mm-hmm. Probably the thing that's lacking in it in terms of what a PPC person would need or a paid advertising person would need is that what we're interested in is not only the volume and all that and how difficult it is, say, to rank or how competitive it is, right. But so things like how much should I bid on something like this, and historically, like is there any idea of what click-through rate and stuff like that is? So. Mm-hmm. That's, I think, where it's not totally a catch-all for both SEO and SEM, mm-hmm. But it's a great tool, and I've seen a lot of really positive feedback. It's a really exciting launch for us at MOZ. And I don't know, Kelly, have you had a chance to poke around in there?
A little bit, not a ton. But what you said earlier, I'm curious. When you set the limits for the cost per click now, what mm-hmm. do you use to help you decide what it should be?
Yeah, so with bidding strategy, I normally use like a tiered approach. So for brand keywords, I will normally have a very high max CPC, and it never reaches that because quality score is very high and click-through rate is obviously high as well. So it doesn't really have to get there, but I want to have that as a kind of fallback. Mm-hmm. For non-brand, because it's more expensive, because these people are maybe higher in the funnel and not familiar with you, I'm willing to bid a little bit higher. So it's, I don't know, bids can be in the $5 to $10 range or something like that, especially with like B2B type space. And with the different even with the different keyword match types, there are different levels of bids as well. So I will bid much higher on like an exact match keyword that's very relevant. And then something like a phrase match or a modified broad match will be a little bit of a lower bid, but I use those to kind of help fuel regular search query mining and figuring out new keywords that I should be bidding on based on how people are actually searching for things.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to add to that too, I mean, when we were talking about the question about the small business and where they should start, one thing I wanted to add to is get into your analytics, find out who's visiting your site. Look at the age bracket, where they're at, where they're coming from, all that stuff. You need to look at that stuff before you engage in a campaign.
Mm-hmm. I think another thing for small businesses that can help is a lot of times you could be a small business that there's a giant brand that you're competing with. Let's say it's something like consumer electronics. And I think that there's opportunity, or even like consumer goods like hardware, that kind of stuff. I think that small businesses, it's really hard to compete on price or even deliverability, like the delivery, mm-hmm. Like your shipping times, free shipping, things like that. So I think that if you were a small business with a limited budget, there are some things that you could do to really like focus the bulk of your budget in your region that you serve, and kind of really point out your unique selling proposition. More and more customers are choosing to support local businesses, and maybe your price is $1 more, or maybe you don't have free shipping. But if you can really point out and reach kind of your local customers and your local market with your message, I think that that's probably a smart way to allocate your advertising budgets.
Absolutely. Good advice. And then, also is, everybody has their own different strategy, but, maybe start small and be very focused on what you're targeting, as far as, keyword phrases and all that stuff.
Yeah, I would say that if you're a small business and you have a limited budget, then you definitely want to do a few things to really limit how far you're targeting, right? So, I mean, with AdWords, what's great is you can do location targeting. So you can say, I only want to bid on people who are searching from this state or this city, or even, I think it goes down to like zip code.
Yeah.
So if you get really, really specific there. And as far as your ad copy, make sure that, if you're very location specific, you can set up different campaigns or different ad groups that have different ad copy where the city or whatever place you're targeting, the name of that place is in your ad title or in your ad copy somewhere, so that someone who searches for that will know, like, oh, okay, so I'm searching for a drum set in Seattle or musical instruments in Seattle. And then if you have that Seattle element in your ad copy, it really just helps people to know, like, oh, okay, this feels more personalized. Like, this feels more real to me. It doesn't feel like you're just trying to sell me something, I guess.
Absolutely.
So that's a really big key. And then as far as even just like looking for keywords that you want to search for, make sure that you have a really high degree of intent. So, you could bid on, I guess to continue with the drum set example, you could bid on just the keyword drum sets. And you could maybe get a ton of traffic that'll cost you a lot of money in the long run. And if you're a bigger budget company, then that's fine. But if you're smaller budget, then maybe you want to go with only keywords that say like buy drum sets, or how much does a drum set cost,
right,
or where to find a drum set in Seattle. Like those kinds of phrases that show a lot more intent.
And scale it with profitability.
Exactly. Yeah.
Man, one thing I want to mention before we move on to the hyperlocal, I always think that it's interesting that you can use AdWords to target by point of interest. So let's say that you were, you had a small bed and breakfast or a hotel. You could target your ads by a point of interest, like the airport, for example, and serve an ad something like, need a hotel tonight in Seattle. Check out my sweet, awesome B&B. We serve awesome breakfast. Or something. That's not too long for ad copy, but
I'd stay there.
I'm really, I'm a big breakfast person. But I think there's some really cool stuff that's coming out as far as being able to target locally. And my guess is that we're just going to see more and more targeting that's going to be geared that way.
Yeah.
Dale, do you any display ads?
We do, yeah. So we're doing display in the GDN, and also with our programmatic partners in Quantcast and AdRoll as well.
Gotcha.
Very cool. I do have a question. Does device come into play at all when you're determining your marketing strategy, as far as desktop to mobile to tablet, those kind of things?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So for MOZ in particular, we're very focused on desktop because our tools aren't particularly something that someone would use a lot on a mobile phone.
Right.
And I think probably any marketer's biggest challenge right now is like, there is definitely value in mobile and people are searching a ton for mobile. I would use my phone over my laptop for like 80% of the things that I do.
Yeah.
But what's hard is that people do research there, but they don't convert there most of the time, right? So I will find something interesting on my phone, or something that I want to look into more, or something that I want to buy, or something I want to sign up for. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I want to do more in-depth research. Then I'll usually move over to a laptop or something for that. And then maybe I'll actually sign up for a free trial, or I'll buy something, or like I have to enter in a lot of information, and I'd much rather do that from a computer. So I think the big challenge right now is that it's really difficult to measure person moving from their phone to a laptop. So you can see a bunch of spend coming in from mobile, and you're like, no one's converting. Why would I spend money on this? But that's not entirely true, because people are probably clicking on your ads and finding out about you and discovering you through that, and then converting elsewhere.
Right.
But finding that, I guess, that point of intersection, or that the way to measure that, is really, really difficult. And I don't know that there are a lot of tools or options to do that right now. So that's the B2B space. I think in the B2C space, it's probably really different. You would definitely want to be on mobile, and especially with local stuff. What do you think, Kelly?
Yeah, for sure. When I was, I feel like old. How long? Like 5 years ago in BBC? What is that? Like
that's
60 years ago?
That's like 100 years.
But when I was in e-commerce and we had both brick and mortar locations and an online site, mobile was definitely a key for us. But I think that if you're in consumer marketing and you're going to be targeting toward mobile, or potentially even setting up separate campaigns for mobile specifically, I think it's important to really be hard on yourself and make sure that your site is optimized for mobile, your entire conversion path.
Right.
Like, how easy is it for a customer to purchase on mobile? Like, do you have touch enabled? How big are your form fields when people are putting in your credit card information? Because even in the consumer space, if your entire funnel isn't optimized for mobile, then you're spending money and you're losing that opportunity, and you're delivering a frustrating experience. So I think that you definitely need to mind mobile, make sure your site is optimized, but also make sure that you're not doing things like having Flash on your site, or
there's still sites out there with Flash. No, I know there is, but let me ask you, are you using that same strategy with retargeting as well? Like, if somebody visits you on a desktop, but they come back on a mobile, because with Chrome that all goes into those cookies.
Yeah, so I mean, for us in particular, I think until we can find a really good way to find that cross-device information, which we have been trying to look into, it's really hard for me to justify spending a lot of money on mobile for myself.
Sure.
And so we, with our retargeting partners, we're mainly focusing on desktop and some tablet as well. One thing that actually came up for us at MOZ, to be totally transparent, is we have one of our newer products is called MOZ Content. It's for content marketers and doing content audits and things like that. It doesn't, when it first came out, it wasn't really even mobile optimized. It didn't have a great mobile experience. And so, when I first started advertising for that product on Facebook and Twitter, I was allowing mobile because, 90% plus or whatever it is of people who are using those platforms are doing it from their phone. So I was like, oh, okay, we want that traffic. We want to get people to the site and introduce them to the product through mobile. And then we started getting complaints like, oh, I tried to check this out and I got an error message or a little thing saying that it's not working on mobile and this isn't a great experience. And so, we had to quickly say, okay, we can't target mobile for this specific product, even though that's where a lot of the social, traffic is coming from. So those are things you kind of have to consider as well, like at least in the B2B software, like SaaS kind of space. Is your product even going to work on mobile? If someone is interested enough and clicks on your ad, which obviously people were doing, are they going to be introduced to a good experience, kind of like what Kelly was talking about? And if you don't have that in place, then don't waste your money, and then also don't waste your potential customers' time.
There are opportunities, though. I know that for one of our products, MOZ Local, we have some content that we promote, kind of white paper content. And those pages, because they're optimized for mobile and the whole experience can be had on a mobile device, the targeting for those is going to be, because the experience is optimized for mobile, then mobile targeting is integrated into the campaigns to promote those.
That makes total sense.
There's opportunities if you're signing, let's say you want to grow your email list or your email database. So that can be something that you can handle if the rest of your site, or in our case, the software isn't optimized for mobile. There's opportunities to capitalize on kind of that social mobile customer, which we all kind of are.
Yeah. And I think if you're really being hyper extra focused on conversion, especially say if you're a small business or you have limited budget and ROI is going to be a big deal, then you really want to follow those best practices with mobile. Say you get someone on a landing page and they have to fill out a form for a white paper, or they have to fill out some information to buy a product or whatever. Right. Reducing the number of fields and reducing that friction that someone might feel, and as far as like entering information on a phone. I mean, I have pretty speedy thumbs, but I hate entering tons and tons of information on my phone. So if you can just like minimize the number of fields that you have that are required, I mean, you can definitely, I know that there's some value to sales teams in having a lot of different fields to qualify people. Yeah. But if you can minimize the number of required fields, especially with mobile, then that's a pretty big deal to get people to actually fill out what you want them to do.
Not only that, you can code the form so that they can autofill if a person on their phone, which is a huge deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, another thing, and you kind of touched on it earlier, is that the importance of a landing page and how it's structured, because we were talking about quality score, not only quality score, but the relevancy to the ad, to the page they're landing on. Mm-hmm. Do you have any specifics that you kind of strategize when you do that?
Yeah. So for me, when we were looking at revamping MOZ's landing pages, it was a really big deal to us to kind of move away from the style we were using before. So our kind of older style of landing pages, we had we still maintained the top nav on the website and didn't really have a lot of trust signals. We had kind of paragraphs of text, so it was a little bit text heavy. When I came on board, I don't know that it was really following best practices. But what we've done since then, a few things that we do to try to really drive people toward a conversion, especially because we're paying for these people to, click on our ads. Right. We've removed the top navigation. We've removed even the sub nav at the bottom, and it's there's really the only way you can get around is you can click on a large CTA button that has a lot of accompanying text. We have trust signals that say 35,000 plus customers use MOZ, and we have a few logos of larger companies that are using MOZ. Mm-hmm. And then just a few bullet points of things that are, we think are important to our customers about why they would use our software. And then kind of below that is a testimonial from a customer that uses MOZ. And again, the only real buttons on the page are the CTA buttons where you can start your free trial, or there's like a kind of a hidden link at the top where it just like leads you directly to moz.com, which is under the logo itself. And if you guys want to take a look, or if anybody listening wants to take a look, you can see our landing page at moz.com/mozpro/lander. And that's sort of the format that we're following now. It's a template that we're using for each of our products as far as landing page traffic on our pages. They all sort of look like this. Mm-hmm. So I know that when we first implemented this version of the page, we saw, I think we did an optimized test of the old lander versus this new lander, and there was a 60% increase in people who are actually getting into the free trial checkout page from this version of the page versus the old one. So it was a really big difference just to do some things that, were simple, like removing top nav and just adding in trust signals and things like that.
I think trust signals are really big, especially when you're coming in from paid search. That social proof aspect can be really important.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point too. I mean, you almost have to be a conversion optimization person as well when it comes to this. But A/B testing is, once your A/B testing is done, A/B test some more, get that conversion rate up.
Our director of growth marketing, he's always telling us kind of it's not just about A/B testing, but also A/B testing within statistical relevance. Right. So if you run an A/B test and you only have 10 people in your test groups, that's not relevant. That's not going to give you a definitive answer on which landing page performed better. So I always hear his voice in the back of my mind when I think testing to make sure you have a large enough sample set.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's important.
Yep. If you're just just tuning in, you're listening to Search Talk Live with hosts Robert O'Haver and Caleb McKelvin. We are joined today by Kelly Cooper, the marketing manager, campaign manager of MOZ, and Fu Bowie, the paid marketing manager at MOZ, as we continue MOZ month here in May. This Tuesday, we're finishing up this week, and next week we do have Rand Fishkin on, so make sure you tune in next Tuesday at 3:30. Yeah. If you'd like to call on into the show, please do so at 855-722-0006. That is 855-722-0006, option 1, and we can get your questions on air or hit us up on Twitter at Search Talk Live.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add to that is if you're listening to us on iHeartRadio,
yes,
you can go to searchtalklive.com and you can get past episodes of other guests that we've had on the show. You can sign up to our mailing list and all that good stuff and get up-to-date information, special offers our guests give out to listeners. Most of them are exclusive, so that's kind of a cool thing. But anyway, back to the show. Sorry. I just wanted to throw that out there. But one thing, we've had a couple discussions in the past, and I do want to give you kudos because I've noticed that you kind of think out of the box and you look at new ways and things to advertise on, as well as, like articles, pages, and all that stuff. And not a lot of people just think, okay, AdWords, Bing. They're not. They're in that box. They don't think out of it. So I wanted to give you kudos on that.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, he's always looking at new formats too. Like, he's awesome. We rely on him a lot.
Yeah, he seems to be up to date.
Yeah, so I'm going to be real with you guys here. I don't know that I think outside. I think other people think outside the box. And then I'm like, hey, that's a good idea.
I got you.
My own idea. Yeah, so I mean, I think I mentioned this earlier. Just I subscribe to a few different kind of newsletters and blogs. So things I'd recommend are like, especially if you're in the PPC world, search engine lands, marketing lands, Digiday. Let's see, who else?
YouTube.
Yeah, Hannapin. Wait, they are PPC Hero. WordStream. And those, like, a lot of guys who are really experts in the field who have people who are constantly writing about new things that they've tested. Usually when I check out webinars or presentations or read a blog post or something like that, the main things I find value in is when someone has tried something and they're telling you about the thing that they tried. So that has proven really valuable to us in determining, like, am I going to really bother our design team up to make these new versions of ads, based on me thinking that it might be more relevant or that it might be cooler. Like, for example, carousel ads,
right?
On Facebook, you have 3 to 5 images to tell a story, and it's really cool and it's very interactive. But I know that it takes our designers a lot more time to come up with the concepting for like multiple images, and they have to create multiple images versus just having the ability to create one single static image. That's, doing that takes a lot less of their time. So I know recently on our side, we actually had to have a meeting to talk to them about, like, okay, is it actually worth doing carousel ads versus a static ad? So I had to go and dig in, and okay, it turns out that our carousel ads do have like a 30% higher click-through rate than our static ads do. Wow. So it's interesting because following best practices, you can justify with your feelings, right? Like, I feel like, or I think that these are best practices. That's what I'm told. But until you have it, you have to do it in your own specific situation, in your industry, in your niche, in your market. The best practices are only directional, right? They're not like, this is gospel and you follow it, right? So you try it out and see if it works for you, and then sometimes it doesn't work for you, and you just kind of keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
I know that MOZ, one of our focus areas in the coming year or two, is going to be experimenting more with video ads to see if they perform at a high enough return to justify the work, because those obviously are a high production cost.
Yes, yeah, they are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could get Rand to do it. I mean, he loves being in front of the camera.
He's a busy guy.
If you people are looking for advice on things that they can do to increase your click-through rate, having Rand Fishkin's face on anything way to increase. We started, like Kelly was mentioning, we started doing video ads recently, and so I'm like, oh, okay, this video has Rand in it, and there are like lots of other speakers in this video. Like, who should I use as the thumbnail? And I'm like, oh, I mean, clearly it's going to be Rand. That's what people is going to catch people's attention in this industry. So yeah, it's been really funny. I usually like default to using him as my thumbnail for like video images or something like that. And
yeah,
MozCon ticket sales.
Yeah.
you got to take that picture. On the Whiteboard Fridays, he always does those crazy pictures, the thumbnails to attract clicks, and it does really well.
It works.
If you ever want to use those.
Absolutely. Well, I got one I would like to bring up because we've actually had some questions on this, is native advertising. Have y'all had any experience with this? If it works, if there is any ROI in it, and if it's effective at all?
Yeah, so native advertising, I think, is kind of a big buzz in the paid industry right
Yeah.
now. So we have started kind of dipping our toes into it recently. So we were using like Outbrain and Taboola to sort of boost our like blog posts and even to advertise a white paper. So between those two platforms for the native ads that we're doing, I've seen a better success in click-through rate from Outbrain. So that's, the tough thing with native ads, or at least with Outbrain, is that it's not really designed to, like, I can't land someone on a page where we're talking about a product or saying like, I want you to do a free trial of MOZ Pro, for example.
Right.
They really want your content.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I need to direct someone to a blog post, or I want to direct someone to the beginner's guide to SEO, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So we provide value in some way, but because of that, it's kind of more, in at least my experience, more upper funnel, right? So you're directing people to like check out your stuff and then view you as a trusted source of information, and kind of building that relationship. And it's much less of accomplishing things at the lower funnel.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, is kind of what makes paid much more useful, is trying to drive people who are at the bottom of the funnel, like to that point of conversion. So, as far as native ads, at least from my experience, it hasn't been something that we've seen a ton of return on. It's more of just like someone wants us to boost a blog post or something like that, or we really want to get this content out in front of people. And Outbrain is perfect for doing that, at least in our case. I don't know. Kelly, have you had any experience with native advertising?
I mean, I think that it really, I always go back to, who's your audience, who's your competitors, and what are your strategic objectives? Like, if your strategic objective is to generate free trials for MOZ Pro, then native advertising probably isn't what you would go with as far as one of your channels of delivery. However, if, let's say, you're a brand new business, a brand new startup, and your goal is to really position yourself as a thought leader in a specific space. People don't know you. They don't know your product. They don't know your value. They don't know if you're smart. They don't know any of those things. Then I think that native advertising provides the opportunity to get your brand and your ideas in front of a larger audience group in a way that has a very low barrier to entry. But I would think that the metric that you would use to report on how native advertising performed for you would be more impression based and potentially traffic to the website, as opposed to that lower level activity. So
yeah, and the interesting thing to me about the whole kind of native ad craze is my impression or idea of native ads is usually super spammy stuff at the bottom of actually relevant stuff that
Right.
Yeah.
So it's it was really interesting for me to be like, okay, I want to play in that space now too, just to try it out. But I was like, I feel like I need an image of a woman who has a foot as her body or something.
Yeah.
I've only seen that one a few times.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting to kind of get into a world where there are tons and tons of spammy people have just the clickbait image and clickbait headlines, and then you're like, well, if I want to be competitive in here, do I have to do stuff that's like that? And that's actually stuff that's recommended by people who like work at Outbrain or Taboola. They're not necessarily that they want you to be clickbaity, but they're like, well, here, you want to have numbers in your headline, you want to have questions, and you want to have this and that, and
that are more provocative.
Yeah,
right.
Basically. And then as far as like imagery goes, it's like, oh, you don't want to have something like a screenshot from your software or something like that. You want a person's face, or you want this, or you want that. So it's like, well, this is really interesting because like this isn't like a person looking at you has nothing to do with what our software actually does. So that's kind of the challenge, I think, of being B2B or being like a software like intangible product space. Like it's maybe not the best fit, right? But I think when it's something that is tangible, that you can take a picture of something or someone holding that something, or like it's
using that something.
Yeah, you have a Fitbit or something like that. You can show someone running and they have a Fitbit on their arm, and and you have that like kind of human element to it, and that's much easier to sell than saying like I've gotten stock, quote unquote, stock images from our design team of people at MOZ just like pretending to be working, and I'm like, okay, well maybe this will work because it's like kind of that professional vibe. So that's
best one you did. You did this. Fu did this test where we had like a funny image.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
So another person on our growth marketing team, her name is Meredith. She does email marketing for us. There was like this photo shoot, I think, like a couple years back, where people were making stock photos, like cheesy stock photos, and
hers is like gold.
She's all dressed up, so she has her arms thrown up and she's making this funny face, and I think she was actually like throwing papers in the air or on the ground or something. But she looks like a referee in a football game. She's like, "It's good." So yeah, I started using her image as something for our native ads, and it actually like has a pretty good click-through rate, which is funny. I think people just see it and are like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
And maybe they click on it by accident or something like that. I think the
quality is hard to gauge.
Yeah. Probably the greatest joke in like the display/native world is like, I've seen memes where people are like excited and they're in front of a computer and they're like, I clicked an ad on purpose. And yeah, a lot of people don't really do that. We definitely get a lot of spammy stuff from maybe display ads and native. And there's definitely quality in there too, but kind of sift through it.
That's another thing with mobile though too, is a lot of people accidentally click those ads too.
Yeah,
for sure. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely part of the reason why we're very like, I guess, conscious of bidding on mobile, especially when it comes to display. You're playing. Let's see, what does my wife play? She plays this game called Heyday, which is like a modern day Farmville. I always call it Farmville when I look at it. She doesn't really like that, but they're like these video ads that pop up, or just ads that come up all the time in the game, and they take up your entire screen. And if you're like a 8-year-old child, you're like, oh, MOZ Pro, like I just want to play Farmville. Then they just tap on it and then accidentally get to your site, and that costs you like 60 cents or however much. So that's definitely an issue, I think, in the mobile, especially the display space.
Right.
Well,
is like getting harder on publishers as far as like docking people from an SEO perspective for having full takeover interstitials on mobile. Like if you look at their mobile optimization best practices, they definitely recommend like a smaller pop-up ad that isn't a takeover. So maybe in one algorithm update here in the not so near future, we'll see something like that. Wouldn't surprise me.
Search Engine Land just posted some of the changes. They say that Google AdWords is to break up tablet and desktop and enable a mobile-based bid. Interesting.
Let me take a look at that.
And Google just hit 2 trillion searches per year.
Oh, yay.
Brilliant. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so I know that when I first kind of came into the industry, there was a big hoopla about like what do they call it? Enhanced CPC or like enhanced bidding or some weirdo thing that Google came up with to basically say you can no longer separate your campaign targeting by like mobile, desktop,
I remember that.
tablet. That was like super controversial thing. And I mean, obviously when I came on board, I was like, what are you talking about? I don't even know. Now after
60 years ago.
After 60 years of practicing PPC, I discovered like, oh, okay, it is valuable to be like, I would love to be able to separate these things and bid on them separately, have their own campaigns, and et cetera. So, I mean, just kind of taking a quick skim of this article here, tablet bidding is back. That's pretty awesome because I'm not going to lie to you, tablet stuff has sucked for us at MOZ, and in general, from my experience, it's not really the best place to be advertising. So that's great that you can maybe separate it out.
Yeah.
And let's see, base bids can now apply to mobile with bid modifiers set for desktop and or tablet. Oh, okay. So it's almost like this is a reverse of enhanced campaigns.
Yeah.
That's sounding. I remember like back in the day when I was more hands-on with search, I just we had to manually separate our campaigns based on device targeting.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's going to be an interesting opportunity there. And this would allow, I think, a lot more to kind of go back to the mobile discussion earlier. If we are able to separate out campaigns and have its own individual mobile bid and all that stuff, then this would be the time to really test that out and test that space out and see, is mobile going to work for my business or not? And this would be a much cleaner way of testing that than just sort of like having it included in a desktop, tablet, mobile mixed campaign.
Yeah. Man, there were a lot of announcements at GPS today.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah.
I'll have to check into this. This must be. I actually signed up for a webinar for. I think WordStream is putting it out on the major Google change that was happening. I'm guessing this is what it is, and so yeah, I'm excited to check that out.
Yeah. Hey, wanted to get your take on something. Text ads, branded text ads. What's your take on that? Do you think it should be done or should not be done? Even if they're coming up in search already, do you think it's worth having a branded?
Yeah, that's something that I feel like that comes up a lot in the PPC industry. So my personal view on it is branded text ads, yes, because with as far as you showing up in SEO results, a lot of times you'll show up for, I don't know, like your homepage will come up or some other page on your site. And so you have some degree of control over that. But I think the thing with paid, there are a few things. First of all, you have absolute control over where a person is landing when they search for your branded ad, right? So someone searches for MOZ, like I can land them on moz.com. I can land that person on the blog posts, or I can land them on a product page or a PPC lander. So I can really direct that person's experience based on what they're searching for. So there's that aspect of it too. It's very easy to tweak your ad copy, and then things like site links and extensions. So with a branded ad, you have so much opportunity to take up a lot of real estate on the SERP because you can add all these different extensions, and it's like, wow, this ad is like a mega ad, and it looks legit because it has all these different, it has site links, it has call out extensions, it has this, it has that, it has a phone number, it has all these different things. So you can really take up a lot of room there. The other thing is, I think the usually the most sensitive thing is if you're not bidding on your brand and you're in a competitive space, someone else is going to do it for you.
There you go.
And,
happens fast, for sure.
Yeah, there are definitely other people bidding on MOZ, and so and these ads, especially with Google's new announcement of like 4 ads being on top and no more sidebar ads.
Yeah, you're pushed down.
Yeah, you're going to get your organic results are going to get pushed way down the page now. So if you're not showing up in that space and all of your competitors are for your brand name, like, I don't know, I would guess that a good number of people don't even read ads. They're just like, okay, I'm going to search for this thing. I'm going to click on the first few results and just sort of see where I am.
Right.
And so you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is if you're in a local area and you're doing a local search, you're going to get local Google My Business stuff. You're going to get the paid ads and then the organic. So it's...
yeah, there's even more competition for that real estate on the SERP. And I think...
And on a smaller screen, right?
If you're on mobile.
Not showing up if it's a local result.
Yeah, definitely true.
Scrolling.
And I think that, sometimes people get concerned about like, oh, why would I spend money on branded terms when I'm already showing up in organic? And like, the thing is, like, quality score should be like a 9 or like at minimum a 9.
Exactly.
Keywords, if not a 10. I would expect that you have 10 on your branded keywords. And because of that, your CPCs are going to be heavily discounted. You're paying like 5 to 10 cents a click. Like it's worth it to just be present on the page, especially if it's that cheap. I mean, gosh, I can't even imagine people are spending more than like $20 to $30 a day on branded terms, like for a small, medium-sized business, or maybe for like humongous people like an Amazon or whatever, then maybe they're spending a lot more than that. But I mean, if you're talking small business, limited budget, it's hugely worth it, and I don't think a very big investment to just be present on branded search terms.
Yeah, I mean the cost is so minimum. Why not?
That automate, like set like a max bid, obviously, but to adjust the bid to be one of the first results. Page results.
Yeah. So I think naturally, because Google is sort of algorithmically positioning people based on their bids, based on quality score and all those other factors and the relevance and everything, your ad will naturally appear above other people's because it's your brand, it's your ad copy and your keywords essentially that people are searching for. So it's pretty easy. I haven't ever had difficulty in positioning a brand's own keywords like as number one. So it's not even something you have to bid really, really, really high on.
Yeah, no, guys, we're down to about 5 minutes left in the show, so I want to get down to it. Just want to let you guys know so we don't cut you, because we cut off pretty quick at the end of the time. But one thing I do want to say too is, not so much B2B, but obviously B2C. For a small business, you can take, go to Facebook, and you can, for pennies on the dollar, you can do quite a bit of advertising.
Yeah, yep, that's definitely true. There are a lot of valuable things with Facebook. I think
custom audiences.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So Kelly hit the nail on the head there. If you're running a small business and you have budget to be concerned about, the best way to get the most out of your social platforms is to use the custom audiences function and get Facebook's pixel on your site and make sure that you can build remarketing/retargeting audiences, or even upload I have all these people that I've collected emails from and they're interested. You can upload them as a custom audience, and you can, on top of that, layer all of these different extra targeting options on top of that as well. So I think that's where people are seeing a lot of ROI and a lot of success in the social platforms like Facebook, like Twitter. And you can even upload customer emails into AdWords now too. That was a somewhat recent announcement in the last few months or so. And that's, what are they calling it? Customer match. So you can do that too for people on search. And as far as targeting options go, one great resource that I found is AimClear. Their blog has a lot of interesting studies and things they've tried out with Facebook targeting. So if people are looking for ideas or things, ways to kind of segment people, AimClear is amazing for that.
Yeah, there's also lookalike audiences, right? You can reach people that you already have their email addresses, and then visitors or people on social most like those people too. Which could be
I've promoted posts at 2 cents, 3 cents a click, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah. Well, guys, we are out of time. It's been nice talking to you guys, and I'm glad to have you on the show. It's always been a pleasure
joining me.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, guys. Hold on to the phone when we get done with the outro. I'd like to talk to you a little bit more. Thanks, guys, for tuning into the show. Tune in every Tuesday from 3:30 to 4:30. You don't want to miss next week's show. We have Mr. Fishkin, the Wizard of MOZ, on.
Yes.
He is going to talk content marketing and how to build a strategy around your content. And I think that's huge.
Yep.
And this guy always delivers. So you don't want to miss next week's show. If you're listening to us on iHeartRadio, please visit searchtalklive.com. Sign up to our mailing list. Get our newsletters, special offers, all that good things. See you next week, and thanks for your support, guys.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Search Talk Live is a presentation of the Robert Palmer family of companies.